We definitely believe big things are coming. You all believe that today? Man, it's awesome to hear and see those over you. We are in the second week of this all-in message series. And here's what I want to just be as transparent with you as I can about it, is that as we move forward toward our commitment Sunday on the 30th, like we have asked, and how many, anybody ever need a coach? Anybody need a coach? Anybody ever? No? Nobody else need a coach? Okay. I needed a coach, and I'm grateful when you are doing things like this. Sometimes you need outside eyes to come in and help you, and I do have a coach that's been coaching us through this, and so it gets to this part. Like, I really don't have a problem like talking about giving to vision or those things. Like, that's not really an issue for me, as all those you know me. And the reason I don't is because we do it in my own life. And so when you talk about giving, when you're honest about it, when you don't have secrets, you can talk about giving and you're not worried about, kind of like what, like, is that a problem? Like, we don't worry about it at all. And so what about All In, when we started looking at this, it was bigger than just giving. There is a facility that is a point of contact or where we're looking to expand. But our goal is this: as a Gen 1 church, we want to make sure we're financially healthy for the next generation. At 51, I plan on living a long life, okay? I still got a lot of life there as well. But you do start thinking about, how do I want this life of mine to matter. And I want what we've done together to matter. And it's got to live past us. Success without a successor is not success. It has to continue. And anything we do for God has got to outlive us. I want to say that one more time. That anything we do for God has got to outlive us. The things that you do for Him should outlive your physical life. I know we don't always like to think that way, because no one wants to think about death or even dying, but I want you to understand something, that the things you do for God should outlive you. And that's just one of the things that we begin to set up today. And so here's where I want to just be totally transparent with you. Like, I really like, when it comes to like kind of like building, they call it setting a table or those things for moving forward. Those are not things I'm terribly comfortable with, because I never, if y'all notice at the end of the service, like I'm not the one that comes up and receives the offering at the end. That's intentional, because I'm not really comfortable doing that. Like, I don't really like having you respond to a message and then clicking over and be like, and now. Thank you for, I'm grateful for it, but I don't do that because I don't want there to ever be a mixture. If y'all notice, like, I never talked to you about, let's see, what was it back in the, my young people won't know, but like back in like the 90s, like there was Excel. Remember Excel phone service that everybody was signing up for, or some of these other things, like you never hear that from the front. Like, you never hear Pastor James like, hey, I need you to buy like these protein bars. They're spiritual, and they're going to help us like grow the church. And the reason I don't is, if we don't do it through our giving, then it's just not going to get done. But we are not going to do it through manipulation. We're not going to have it through slick marketing. We're not going to bring anybody in that's going to like shyster us up. We're just going to talk very openly and very honestly about it. So today, here's what I want to talk about. I want to, because when it comes to giving, like, I know, especially in church life, because I want to kind of knock down some of those parameters, some of the things that you're afraid of. And so as a pastor, what are you afraid of? Well, I'll tell you, nothing grabs you more than when you start thinking like my salary comes from people's like willingness just to give. Like, I'd feel way better if we were selling something. Like, when I worked in the hotel industry, like we knew like, hey, we needed to sell more hotel rooms in order to reach our quotas. And so we discount them so we could kind of do that. But in church life, what do you really sell? Like, we don't sell nothing here. Like, we don't even sell gear. We'll give it to you. If you serve, you're going to get at least a t-shirt. You're probably going to get more than that. So what do you do? Like, when you start thinking about it, it's really based on people's generosity and them catching a vision. And when you refuse to be like manipulative, then of course, then it really is like, Lord, you have to provide. And I want to be just totally clear, like, the Lord has been so faithful to me and my family, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful for our generosity here. So I'm going to talk with you about, when we talk about giving, I want to just kind of address some of the way kind of I think about it, and I'm going to use a familiar set of scripture, but don't tune out when I do that. I'm going somewhere, okay? So can y'all say that? So Pastor James is going somewhere? Okay, I'm going somewhere. Okay, so stay with me in that. When we started talking about this journey about all in, I gave you two principles, and the first one was this, that when it comes to following God's plan, there is no plan B. That when it comes to following God's plan, there's no plan B. Can I tell you, like, even when it came to this building, this facility, when it came to even us, they're saying that we told someone that we were going further in our ministerial training, and we told them we're coming to Laurel, and people brought up facts. They brought in data. You know what they brought in? Here's what they brought in. They didn't bring in, like, a word from God. They brought in financial data. Do you know, like Laurel, like, you know, per capita, like the average, like at that time in 2009, I believe the data they had showed like the median income was like between 31 and 34,000. You know, they're like, you know, I mean, they're like, you know, there's other cities in Mississippi that, you know, kind of like, you know, like if you go up near Madison, and I have nothing against Madison, that's wonderful, but God didn't call me to Madison. He called me right here. And how many know, listen, hear me, don't ever get to where you choose to obey God because of what pleases your eyes. You obey God by what you have peace for in your heart. Because there, he'll provide. But if you let your eyes decide what you do for God, then your eyes will also have to keep providing for what you do for God. When you choose obedience in his heart, he partners there with you, and he'll walk and guide you. It doesn't mean you don't have difficult times. It means that difficult times won't ever have you. And you're going to walk it through. Is this making sense yet at all? So that's why there's no plan. But here's the second principle, that God's not trying to get something from you. His desire is to get something to you. Okay? So he's not trying to get anything from you. He's trying to get something to you. All right, those two principles. Then we looked at and we determined that there was a theme, and that it was chosen as our theme because it talked about the level of commitment it was going to take to achieve what God had put on our heart in three specific areas. Here's those areas. It was a bigger faith, stronger ministry and impact, greater opportunity. At 12 years old, we have to look and we say, look, you have to evaluate everything. You've heard me say it 100 times. Every year, 1% or a percentage of what you do, 1% of what you do, 10% of what you do becomes invalid if you don't analyze it. So in 10 years, you can really be having church, but really not be effective at all because there's no feedback, there's no evaluation, there's no having to trim back here or do certain things. Anybody making sense yet? So we want to make sure bigger faith, stronger ministry, greater impact, because there is more. Then we established this, that we're going to look and identify 5 pillars. We did 2 weeks ago. Surrender was the first one. Here's the second one, was trust. And I did a message on those. You didn't hear that. Unfortunately, we had problems with our Wirecast, and so it didn't even capture them. But I got message notes, so if you need those, you can do that. So today, then, I want to talk about 2 more, and I'm going to start in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, which is a very familiar section of Scripture. Now, listen, I'm encouraging, because when you hear people in church talk about giving, they use this. I don't need you to tune me out. Stay with me, because I'm going somewhere, okay? Stay with me. You promise? Okay, at the end, you can go if it's bad. But until the end, you got to stay with me. All right, 2 Corinthians chapter 9, starting at verse 6. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly. How many times we've heard that one in church? Like, oh yeah, of course they're going to give that one. Yeah. All right, so whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you, here's what Scripture says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give. Not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly. Now, I want to go right there, because when they've used this, like I've been in meetings where they do that, and then they take like 12 offerings so they get what they've decided you should give. Okay, so listen, I get that. I've been there. I've looked right at them. I've been right there. I've been on second row. I was at one meeting, and I'd already determined what I was going to give. The check was already written, and I'm there, and they did these multiple offerings, and so I just waited till the end. I wasn't going to get up, and, you know, they did the rows. You know, like who's going to give like 600? Feel the Lord says there's about 10 people going to give 600. And 12, all that kind of deal. Like, we don't do that. We're not doing that foolishness. So I sat there and I looked, and finally he just looked, because I didn't get up and move, and he had a word from the Lord for me. People, there's some people here that God can get nothing out of you. I did just like this. I went. I wonder who those people are. So I had nothing to prove to him because I wasn't giving to him, or I was giving because that's what the Lord had purposed in my heart. I knew how to give. So I wasn't worried. They can say whatever they want to. Doesn't move me one bit. Not going to make me give one more penny. I purposed in my heart what I was going to do. That's what we did. I'm encouraging. All right, so anyway, I've been there. I just want to relate. Okay, so let's go on. All right, keep going. All right, so God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. So here's his plan. He said right here in his word that his desire is to give you everything, the things that you need, that you would abound in good work. All right, now keep going. Here's this next part they never read. Now he who supplies seed to the sower, stay with me, bread for food, will also supply increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You'll be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion, and that through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. Two things I want to start with right here. He supplies seed to the sower, back there for me, back on the scripture. Seed to the sower, bread for food. That's where I'm going today. Seed to the sower, bread for food. Those two concepts. And they get us to these 2 points, these next 2 pillars, which are generosity, and this fourth one then is sacrifice. Because you can't talk about getting anywhere without those two, generosity and sacrifice. Stay with me. Seed to the sower, food, bread for food. All right, so God is called then, there's his name for God, it's this called Jehovah Jireh. Anybody heard that name before? Yeah, and what does it mean? The Lord will provide. Where'd that come from? The first time we really see that in the word is when God provided a ram in the bush so that Abraham did not have to sacrifice Isaac. And so Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide, is memorialized by Abraham in that case. Here's what we believe. We believe then, because we know him as Jehovah Jireh, that God will provide everything we need. Do we believe that? Are we good today? No. Okay. Balcony, are we good with that today? Are we good? I know y'all can see me clear because we put in glass. Okay, all right, good. Okay, so we believe that God will supply our needs. And if you don't, I'm encouraging you need to get on that train, because in this world's economy, if you're trusting in the world's economy, you're going to be a nervous wreck. But when you trust that the Lord will provide everything we need, that means come feast or famine, he's going to provide. I don't know how, but he's going to provide. Anybody hear me yet? And hear me. Okay, stay with me then. All right, so with that then, he provides everything we need, but some of it is seed to be sown, and some of it is then bread to be consumed. All right, 2 things, right? Because we read in scripture, second it says, he gives seed to the sower and bread for food. That's what we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. I want to show you a biblical context. So some of it is seed to be sown, some of it is bread to be consumed. God will provide everything we need, but it is our job, say my job to know and hear from him what is seed and what is bread. Okay? This is why we don't do crazy things like write your rent check money to the church. Don't do that. Don't do that. Well, Pastor, I got faith. I believe you do. You also have wisdom. Don't do that. Okay? Because if it gets down to it, we can't house you here like in a non-emergency situation. Okay? So we don't do things like that. You don't go and, well, I just took like my whole retirement. So now we got family, you got responsibilities that you're not taking care of. So you take your car payment and you write that check to the church. We don't do that. Because personally, I love you. If you need a ride, I will probably come help you, but I probably can't help you to have the accessibility that you might need. Okay, so come on, hear me? We still good? Can we talk? Is it okay we talk honestly about stuff that because you'll talk about it when you're not here at Buffalo Wild Wings. So I figure let's just talk now. And just be out, right? Because I like wings too. And so you can't do that, like faith checks. That's why we don't write faith checks. What are faith checks? Well, most people don't write checks anymore because, we use our card. But in the old days, when you used to have checks, like you used to write a check and be like, now you knew the money wasn't there. But you was banking. You was like, okay, now look, if I write it today and I get it to them, like I said, bank closed. What time? Check makes it with the bank. Bank closed at 4 o'clock. Go take it to them at 3:58. They ain't gonna have time to get it to the bank. So now I got 3 days. Okay, Jesus rose in 3 days. He gonna resurrect my bank account in 3 days. Writing faith checks, you can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do that. Okay, can't do that. And so again, it's okay for you to live by faith, but you have to be honest and tell people where you're at. Because your integrity matters. That's why we don't put offers in on houses that you don't have financing or the money to get. That's not integrity. That's why you go get a pre-approval. Pre-approval are good things because it tells you how much you really can afford. And you find something that means, or it takes just as much faith to believe God for someone to come down to what you can afford as it does for you to believe, for you to have enough money for something that maybe is larger than where you're at. It's the same amount of faith, Trust God. But you have to operate with integrity, okay? So it is your job to hear from God what's seed and what's bread. Here are the sowing then and reaping principles then that I want to talk with you about. Here's this first one. Don't give your bread in an offering because you won't have your needs met. That's when you write your rent check to the church. Don't give your bread because bread is for food. Bread meets your needs. You don't give your bread in an offering. Your rent check, a car payment. You don't give that in an offering, okay? Well, we still good? Here's the second one then. You also don't consume your seed because you will not have a harvest if you do that. Okay, so two things, right? You don't give your bread because you won't have your needs met, but you also don't consume your seed. And here's what that kind of looks like. So, if a young person, where my young people at? Let's see, Joshua, how old are you now? 22. Joshua's 22. Gabriel, how old are you? 25. Logan, how old are you? 22. Okay. So, to my young people, when you get my age and your hair turns this gray, you almost get a tattoo that just says, "Where's my retirement?" Like you're thinking about it. You think about it all the time. You think about it. Retirement. Like it becomes almost your middle name. James, retirement, Johnson Hill. That's kind of what you think of. Like, you kind of think of that. Okay. Because you're not going to be able to work like forever. And me, I'm a little allergic. Like, look, let me tell you something. I'm nice. Them people that come by and pick up our garbage on my neighborhood on Tuesdays. Listen, I have left Raising Cane's gift cards out there on top of that garbage can for them to say thank you, because I know what it's like when they don't come. And I sure know I don't want to be on, so I want them, if nothing else, if they go on strike, I want to be like, you know what, but we're going to go by and pick up that one the one that gave Ray King, let's go get his trash. We're going to leave you hear me? Okay, yeah, because I know, and look, I don't want to be 85 up there having to move trash. I'm going to be straight with you. I'm like, no, Lord, so I need some savings. Okay? When you take your seat, okay, young people, stay with me. So if you, by the age of 26, can put $15,000 away for your retirement, $15,000 by age 26 and get a financial advisor. And right at one time, they were looking at 14% return. Some people saying 12. I think it's really hard to get 12 anymore. You're probably going to get close to 10. But if you leave it there for 40 years, you will not have to put another dime in for your retirement. In 40 years, you'll have a little over $2 million. Somebody say seed. Seed, yeah. So let me give you an example of that in real life. So you take an apple seed, you put it in the ground, seed opens up, sprouts, right? Starts coming through the soil. Like, oh, it's gonna be good, right? So you decide, so it comes up, it gets like this tall, and you're like, you know what? It's cold, I need some firewood. So you take that tree and you pull it out of the ground, roots and all, you throw it in your fireplace. You got fire, you got heat, but what did you just do? You just consumed your seed. So when listen, Pastor James done it too. Look, I needed stuff, and had to dip into my retirement and be like, well, you know, but I need that. Need it. 12 years later, you're thinking, I don't think I needed that. So I mean, but young people, hear me. You can put $15,000 away now and leave your seed in the ground, and it's going to produce a harvest. But if you consume your seed, come on, is this making sense here? I know some of y'all like absolutely like, don't get depressed on me, because some of us that are older like, you mean to tell? Yeah, I know. I thought the same thing. I'm like, Lord, have mercy. I'm telling you, I'm like, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up something with my kids. Like, you don't get no retirement unless you ain't get no inheritance till you, like, negotiate with me or something. I don't know. But listen, this is why I encourage you. Listen, right now, you have that beautiful thing called time. But here's what you don't do. You don't give your bread and you don't consume your seed. Is this making sense to anybody yet? God is giving you bread to take care of the needs of your house, but here's the definition of a seed. Well, Pastor James, what's a seed? Here's a seed. A seed is something that I need, the $15,000, but it's too small to satisfy my need. I can't live off of that. Y'all got me? We still good? A seed is something that I need, but it's too small to satisfy my need. Okay? I can't live 15,000. Somebody can look 15,000. Joshua could own H&M. Okay? He just having the whole wardrobe. He'd be on it. Okay? But can he live his whole life that way? No, because you know he likes fashion. He got to stay up to date. Okay? Look, listen. I'm with it. I'm good with it. Look, that's fine. But you can't live there. Anybody got me? Who can live off $15,000 a year in the room? Because I need to get your number. Hold on, let me get my phone so I can get your number so I can figure. Anybody living off $15,000 a year? No. Anybody gonna live off $15,000 for the rest of your life? No. Because what? It's seed. And if you sow your seed, right, it's how God sets up for your needs down. There's something that you need, but it's too small to satisfy your need. Here's your wisdom key. Don't sow your bread, sow seed. And whose job is it to know that? You got to hear from the Lord about your life. That's not something you need Pastor James up in your business for. I can give you concepts, but you have to hear from God for your life. All right, so when we start talking about then, we're talking about all in. And as we move toward Commitment Sunday, what I don't want you to do is to get in bondage. What I do want you to do is live in freedom. So when we start talking about this for the next 2 years, like what are we trying to do? 3 specific goals. We started last time, we said this, our first goal, I talked about this 2 weeks ago, was 100% participation. And I talked about those first 2 pillars, surrender and trust. What's our next goal then? Here's our next one. We have then an impact goal. 1.1 million. That's going to take generosity to get there. Pastor James, 1.1 million? What are you talking about? That's what it takes for us to just do church a year. 550,000 a year, about what it takes every year. In salaries, and our salaries are less than 40%. And so really it takes that to pay our mortgages, to do ministry, to make sure that things are taken care of, light bills, or, the church. We're only tax exempt for our properties, and we're tax exempt at Sam's. Other than those two things, we pay taxes. Do y'all know why we pay taxes? Because they help our city. They help our community, and we can afford them. Okay, so we do take advantage of the benefit of not having to pay property taxes. And Sam's, that's in Hattiesburg, so we got to, stick it to them a little bit. Jab them. They ain't in Jones, so they're going to get a little bit. They ain't getting everything. But other than that, here we pay taxes. So we go in and we pay taxes. We buy equipment or anything, we pay taxes for them because we know it benefits our city. We want to help in that way. Now, here's this next one. So it takes 5 points. Remember, we're talking about 2 years. That's what it takes to do ministry, 2 years. We need that whether we acquire another facility or not. That's what it takes to just do things around here. I'm stunned. I looked at that number myself. I remember when our annual budget was like $55,000. I remember that thinking, whoa, that's a lot of money. Here's this next one. Then comes our opportunity goal, and this is what we're looking to do above that. Over the next 2 years, our goal is $700,000. What does that do, Pastor James? It will pay off this facility and position us for the next one. And we've secured, so anybody seen this thing called interest rates? Anybody seen that? That's gone up quite a bit. Anybody seen those? Yeah, like a lot. So we've already secured a low interest rate for the next 6 years through our relationship with our bank. So what you see interest rates right now, I believe, are they at 7 right now? 7.25%. We've secured financing at 5%. You can't even touch that. And we have other financing in place at 2%. And you can't touch that. And so here's where we have positioned ourselves, where God's blessed us and opened up opportunities for us. And you see how nice it is when you just talk about it, because when you have nothing to hide, you just tell like it is. So this is where we're, Now, we paid the light bills. So I don't know what's happening with that Mississippi Power trying to act up, but we paid it. Here's my point in all that. When we look there, this is what we're trying to do. That's the part that's going to take sacrifice. And we want to position ourselves so that we are in good shape financially as we go forward. We don't really want to leave another generation debt. We want to put them in a good place. Now, because I love hearing from people like, you know what First Baptist is doing? And again, I want to point out they have a 98-year head start on us. In 98 years, I'm hoping we're going to be in that same place. Now, I probably won't be here if the Lord has not returned, but we know the next generations will be in good shape. That makes sense at all? Making sense? Anybody been up to Agape Kids and seen it up there lately? It's awesome. We got great leaders, but they are full to the max. We don't really need a big auditorium. That was never, ever, ever the plan. It's why we didn't build across the street. I need a big auditorium. We don't need a big auditorium. But we do need bigger spaces for our children. We do need bigger spaces for our students. We do need bigger spaces for our small groups. Really, for every other thing other than a Sunday morning. We need bigger spaces for you all to hang out after church, sit on benches. We need a baptismal that we don't have to set up and tear down. And by the way, we're going to have a baptismal in our new facility, but I want to let you know something. It's not going to be indoors. It's going to be outdoors. We're going to build it right outdoors, right near the front door, because we like doing them outdoors, so that's what we're going to do. And when it's not a baptismal, we're going to put some pumps in it, and it's going to look like a fountain, but it's a baptismal. It's going to be cool. It's the coolest thing. I know. Isn't that make sense, though? It's like you got a fountain. You think, like, we should do baptism in there, but nobody thought that. So we're going to think about it ahead of time. It's going to be baptismal that's going to shoot water up in there, and we're going to be like, oh, it's a beautiful fountain. We're like, actually, it's just a baptismal. It's got steps you can go in. Like, we'll turn it off and baptize people. We'll turn the fountains back on. That'll be cool. That'll be great. That'll be great. It's so practical. And while we're using that facility, anybody ever been out, anybody driven by it? It's looking wonderful right now, isn't it? It's a little rough. But church, that's what we do. That's what we do because that's who we are. We look a little rough, but Jesus breathes life into us, and all of a sudden, we become something that everybody's pointing at going, look at that. Look what God can do. I love taking something that somebody else is giving up on and seeing what Jesus can do with it when he puts it in his hands. I love it because that's what he did with my life. That when I didn't care about it, Jesus did something with it. And so here's what I'm encouraging you. I wasn't just encouraging you. I never want to manipulate you. I want to be as open and want to be as clear with you as I can. As we move toward that day, while we're waiting on the 30th, is I do want you to consider, because it is going to take your continued generosity to do what we do. It's going to take your sacrifice, our sacrifice, to get to where we're going. Niece and I have started over a year ago. God's blessed us with a Airbnb business that we are now growing and we're grateful for. And so we're looking at that as, hey, Lord, well, here's another stream that you've allowed us to continue to be a blessing. We're looking at that like, Lord, how much of that are you asking for us to believe for? We're finding our other streams as well. It's not just in our income just that comes from our serving here at the church. So we're believing God for other streams. Hey, believe God for another stream. I never saw myself as a business person. But you know what? If you open up and you're good and you're faithful over little, he'll make you ruler over much. He'll give you wisdom. He'll help you. Come on, you might hear me yet? Or is this like crazy stuff? This crazy stuff. Real things, real things. I'm encouraging you in that regard. I'm encouraging you as we look toward our future, and together, whatever we do is going to be a success. God always provides. And so also I need to tell you that as of today, we want to let you know that our Midtown building is under contract and it is scheduled to close next week. And so we're extremely excited about that. So I know our students, now all of a sudden all the students are like, wait, what? Okay, calm down. Estudiantes, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. We're not going to lower our standard for you. So we have a high standard for you. We want to help Josh as he continues to lead well. And so we are securing a space for you that is going to be absolutely Mac Daddy as well. And until we can get over there and get you set up there, you're going to be in a great space. It's not going to feel like you weren't cared for. Parents, I want you to understand your kids don't get scraps. They get steak. They get good meat. They get good cuts of meat. They ain't get no scraps. Now, asada, they can chop it up. Now, maybe it's tacos, but it's going to be no. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that, and Josh will tell you all more about that. But students, I want you to say, your space is going to be amazing. Like, it's jealousy. Like, I'm just jealous over it. But it's also going to give us continued space, better space, also when they're not in use it for small groups and other things like that as well. So it's going to be a great space as well. So we're grateful. So that building is going to finish being sold next week, and then we'll be officially all moved out of there and moving forward. And God's blessed us. We're gonna make a good penny off of it. So once I know exactly, I don't want to give you the wrong number, but once I do, then I'll announce and let you know how much we profited from selling that property. But it's a blessing, and we're grateful for it. And hey, it's ours, so that goes toward that number as well. Church, here's what I want to tell you. As we start to, Gabe, you coming up? Who's coming up for me to close out, I guess? I just want you, I know we were in church, and these aren't the funnest ones, but they're things that we have to have as we start talking about the future. And here's why I'm in my life. I keep saying it over and over again. For many, many years, I've been on the platform. And I sense myself being in a season where I transition, where I am the platform, where our younger leaders can have something to stand on like other leaders did for me. I want to hold them up and give them space. Church, can you hear me? We got to give them space. Train them to be leaders. Give them opportunity to make mistakes and guide them through it. Because anybody here ever not make a mistake like parenting or leading anything or being a manager? Did I ever tell y'all about the time I got on an employee, jumped on them when I was managing a hotel, and I was like, I don't put up with that. This is how we do it. And he did just like this. I was like, do you hear what I'm saying to you? And he literally froze, stopped moving, kept breathing, stopped moving, stood right there, eyes open like this. I was like, do you hear what? You know, I was younger then. And here's what I learned. You can't treat everybody the same way. You definitely can't do that kind of thing being a good leader. I learned at a very young age, number one, that was one of the biggest mistakes I probably made as a supervisor, as a leader. Because I learned that, number one, that he froze because I had hurt him by how I responded to him making a mistake. So rather than knowing how to carefully move him forward, that was not about his benefit. That was about me feeling like I'm in charge. How many know human collateral don't work? We never want to be that place. We never want to be that church that human collateral people don't matter. It should always hurt, bother us if somebody's not here or they leave. You can't stop them from doing it, but we never want to be the church that's just like, we always want to be the church that feels. And while you may not agree or it's painful to see, we got to let people do what God leads them to do because they belong to him. He paid the price for them, and we bless them in their future. We always bless people to their future. We never have them leave out of these doors cursed by us. We bless them in their future. So, church family, here's where I am today. We move forward 2 more weeks. And on the 30th, then we will begin to look at what that commitment looks like as we move forward. And whatever the case is, we're always going to believe that if we're obedient and we do what God tells us to do individually, collectively, we know he's going to make a difference. That budget also is our missions budget. Some churches will say during a building season, like, we're going to cut missions. We're not going to cut missions. We won't do that. We can't. They depend on us to do ministry all over this state, all over our country, and all over the world. So we have to continue to be a missions-driven church. We'll stay here and do multiple services before we'll stop supporting the gospel around the world. So, all right, we good there? We good? All right. So what did I talk about? Bread and about seed. I'm not Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, he gets it. Here's what I am. I've been James like my whole life. I really have. Like, I've been me. I've made some definite financial mistakes that I've had to learn from. But I also learned something a very long time ago when I was 14. Mark 11, 23 and 24. The things that you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them and you'll have them. And I learned that if I was disciplined enough when I was getting $20 a month as my allowance, that if I would give the Lord to and learn the discipline of living off of what was left, that I believe that there would be seed that would be sown that in many days would come back and I'd reap a harvest. And all I can do is give you this, is just tell you that I've never had like a storehouse full of stuff. Like, I've never been able to like go to the bank and it's just like, Pastor James can just like, like hand out money. Like, here's how it goes, here it goes. I have had to look and go, like, I've had dreams in my heart about what God wanted to do and thought, how in the world is it going to happen? And I've got story after story where the Lord somehow, through a relationship, through a friend, got me to this or connected me there, and somehow it resulted in exactly what we needed. Years ago, I was driving down 15th Avenue, and I was kind of stressing about our church and, like, how come, like, I want us to have this big storehouse. Like, you've been, like, really tempted personally to, like, Lord, that's $449 million in that lottery. Like, Lord, like, why can't you bless me like half of it? I really would give it. Like, I really would. Like, I'm that person. Like, don't act like I'm the only one that thought about it, because some of y'all right now, you bummed because you didn't win that other one yesterday. It's okay. I appreciate it. You was trying to give to I know you're going to give all. Lord, I'm all in. That's why I'm getting this ticket. That's why I drove to Memphis to get it. I didn't want them to see how all in I was in Laurel, so I drove to Memphis to get that ticket. bless you. Make sure, if you won, make sure you get top. Okay, so. But here's the offer, like, here's what the Lord offered me, and I'll never forget it. He said, James, what if I offer you manna? Now, what is manna? Manna actually means what is it, but you all remember what the children is when they had manna, like they had it the night before, and they just had enough for that day. And on Sabbath, they got enough for 2 days. And I was kind of like, well, that's not really a good offer. Like, I'm like, Lord, like, I don't really want to. And here's why. And then he just spoke to my heart so that, because I want you to always need me. James, would you put yourself in a place where you always need me? Because sometimes I think if we really look at it, sometimes we want wealth because we want to, like, be able to not depend on God. And I don't know whether that's a Western thing or not, but he offered me, and he said, would you always be in a position where you need me? And I would love to say, like, at that moment, I was like, yes, Lord, I feel it. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of like, so you're saying, if I don't, you're going to fill the storehouse, you know, I can have stuff. It took me 3 or 4 days. And then in my car, just driving again, me in the car, and I can't even remember where I was then. I said, all right, I'll take you up on that offer. I want to need you every day of my life. I want to make space to need you every day of my life. Hey, church, can I just ask you this? That was him talking with me about money, but what about, like, life? Are you in a place where you need him every day of your life? Like, really, is that something like you would even take the time to do? Like, Lord, I want to need you every day of my life. I don't want to live one day not needing you. Not one day. And if you're here today, right there, maybe that's this whole thing about all in. It has to start there. A place in your life. Take everything that I've said out of it and take that one thing. Lord, I just want to need you every day. Come on, anybody here today? Anybody here today that would say that, Lord, I just want to need you every day, every day. Every head bowed, every eye closed, where you're here today. Maybe the first place you need the Lord is surrender your life to him. If that's you today, you need to surrender your life to Jesus. And say, Lord, I want to need you every day. I want you to be the air that I breathe. I want you to be the air in my lungs. I want you to be my reason for living. If that's you today, you know it's your season to surrender your life to Jesus, your time. Maybe you've been distant from God and you've been far from him. You're trying to figure out how to get back. You don't earn your way back. You just come on back. You have an open door. If that's you today, you need to surrender your life to Jesus. Rededicate your life. Would you lift your hand and say, Pastor James, it's me. It's me. I'm surrendering my life to Jesus, or I need to rededicate my life. So anybody who needs to make that decision today, checking the balcony, checking the main floor, and I trust that we are all in the right place, and I'm grateful for that. Grateful for that. Thank you. Listen, church family, again, I just want to thank you all so much. I ask you to carefully consider as we look at what all in means for us. Our prayer team's going to be in the back. If you have prayer for you, we prayed for needs, and if you need someone just to agree with you, they'll be in the back after service today. Jeff Kim, you all will be there in the back as well, or they may just be up here as we finish the service. I will transition the service now. And at the end, people will clear out. If you need prayer, please don't take it as like a not important thing. Come and get prayer so we agree with you.